I have a panel here of education experts from various quarters, and that is what we'll be discussing here. And remember, we are live from the broadcasting house here in the county of Nairobi and also on our social media platforms. And we would like you to also weigh in on this discussion in regards to matters education. According to you, do you believe that all the measures that have been done in the education sector are bearing fruits? That's a conversation that I would like you to weigh in on. My name is Njue, and Lensa Odingo is my colleague on the sign language interpretation. And without further ado, before I introduce my guest, there are a number of activities, because here at NewsTech we ensure that we keep you afloat or abreast with all the latest happening in the country. But more or less today we're gonna lean on matters education, and the president is having his day in Nandi County, where we are expecting that he will be commissioning Tinderet, TTI and affordable housing at Kapsabet. Later on, he is expected to fully open there is a function actually of opening a person's test center in Westlands. The Africa Cup of Nations still continuing, and remember, your true sports partner, KBC Channel 1, all the matches, we're bringing them to you live from Ivory Coast. But away from that, let's get back to matters education. Beginning from my immediate left, It's not the first time he's been here. He is the director of God Will Provide. He is also a governance and leadership expert, and he's also a philanthropist. His name is Newton Ogada. Newton, karibu sana.
Thank you.
And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I haven't seen you this year. It's back to school anyway.
Thank you.
Just next to him, we have Benson Masero. Benson Masero is an educationist, and is also, you do remember that a lot of parents are talking about the harsh economic times while we are talking about education, where he's one of the guys who are trying to actually push for scholarships to ensure that all the needy but bright students get a chance to further their education. And just next to him, we have Hesbon Otieno. Hesbon is a Deputy Secretary General at the Kenya National Union of Teachers. Quite a discussion when we talk about teachers, and actually we talk about the education in the country, and how we have been able to more or less follow the recommendation that the task force will be, the task force that was established by the head of state. You will be telling us more about that, and especially, I'm quite sure, a lot of challenges in the education sector. Karibu sana.
Thank you so much. Asante sana, and jambo watazamaji.
Thank you. And just next to him is also not a new face here, is Silas David. He is the chairman of the Parents Teachers Association, also a crucial ingredient in the education sector. Well, gentlemen, karibuni.
Thank you. Thank you.
And let me begin with you, Newton, because you also have a school. And not only that, you do not go for scholarship. You don't get any funding from the government. Yours is your own source. But unfortunately, you have to support orphans and disadvantaged kids. How has it been, and especially back to school?
First of all, let me say thank you for inviting me for this serious discussion about education. This is the toughest month in the history of education sector. We, as the people who have been supporting many children who has no parents and those who are less privileged, it is not easy at all, because everything is high, and even the school fee from different schools are really high. So it's a big challenge that we are facing right now as we speak. And I don't know how we are going to manage it, because everything is kind of opposite. Life is difficult. Support to the children, there's no enough money now. And again, even to feed the children is not easy. So it's kind of difficult now as we speak. Yes.
Benson, you also run a program more or less related to what Newton is doing, and you're also a trained teacher. So you are actually feeling the heat as well. Tell us about back to school in your opening statements.
Yes, this is the week of back to school, and we've encountered different challenges in terms of parents being able to get onto the onboarding of the Form 1s. Resources are limited. The cost of living is so high, and you find that some parents don't even have the transport, the basic needs that the students need for them to be able to comfortably stay in school. So generally, it is we are still struggling to make sure that with the available little resources, we are trying to help those we can. But at the end of the day, of course, we look upon the government to give direction so that we achieve the 100% transition, without which we may not achieve that. Yeah.
And Bonasek Jen, looking at teachers, more or less, one of the biggest challenges that we've ever had, even in the 844, now we are in the CBC, has been the shortage of teachers. This is something that even your predecessors have always been talking about. Education has the biggest budget of any sector in the country, but we are still not there yet. Your opening statement.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to wish all the parents well who are taking their children to Form 1. Personally, I'm one of them. I took mine yesterday. And so what the parents are talking about taking children to Form 1, I'm saying real life experience. So I want to wish every other parents well as they are doing the same. And I also want to say that at least I had an experience of visiting about 3 schools which were doing admissions to Form 1, or rather those ones also which were preparing to admit students to Form 1. I want to thank the teachers for the arrangements they made to ensure that there is seamless receiving of students in the school, in terms of right from the time that the students arrived in school and the last batch, more so for those who are joining boarding schools. I saw in about 3 schools that I visited yesterday that the organization that the teachers did this time around was good. On the shortage of teachers, I want to say that this is still a challenge that we will have for quite some time. But I want also to thank the government, because last year the government was able to employ about 56,000 teachers. And we expect that this year, again, a good bunch of teachers will be employed, considering that at the point of employment of the 56,000 teachers, at then we had recorded a teacher shortage in public schools of about 116,000. So it was like we have done a half of it, though the employment, most of them were on interns basis and not permanent and pensionable. But when now we're dealing with the teacher shortage, we say that the government tried, they did a half of the shortage, but still that does not cure the shortage, because the shortage will always be there. We still have another bunch of teachers, and again we have other classes being introduced in the competency-based curriculum, as you know. And also there are also the transition through natural attrition. There are teachers who are leaving service and they need to be replaced. So the shortage is something that will be there. But I'm happy that the government is working on it, but still the shortage is something that we really need to think about.
And still on the shortage, we still have the quality of education, and especially of teachers. Now we have CBC, we've heard about junior secondary teachers as well. But we're going to be discussing that further, because there's a lot of issues that surround the teachers, including the motivation. Yeah, we've had a number of them talk about, now you gave us contracts, we were expecting deals in the January, but it's a good thing that you're here. We're going to be discussing that. And Silas, in your opening statement, I do remember the last time we were with you last week, we had a very short time to discuss about the back to school. It's a good thing that you're back, and there are 3 key issues that you raised. I still remember them. We're going to be discussing them, but it's back to school, and as you can see on your screen, we could say that the learners are excited to be back to be in a new environment, Form 1, but we also have the parents themselves. Yesterday I saw a parent who took his child to school with just the admission letter, not even nothing else. And the uniform that the kid had is what he was using in his primary school. It has been a very, very challenging year, especially for teachers in the 2024.
Yeah, I would say that it's a happy moment for parents, all of them, in the first place, because since COVID-19 is the first time that now again Kenya is getting back to the normal school calendar. So parents were looking forward to this kind of a moment. So in the first place, they are very happy about it. 2, what you are saying about a child going to school with a letter, without anything else, that's a child from a very serious parent. That's a child that looks forward to getting education, whether with or without money. He knows that it's his right to get education. So with shoes or without shoes, with a blanket or without a blanket, he has to be in school. So he took the right step, and I want to congratulate that parent for taking the child to school the way he was, because he went in totality with what he had. There are challenges we accept, but we want to say that parents have roles to play all the way. You remember when I was here last time, I told you that during the Christmas holidays, we kept on advising parents that they must be prepared for the opening of their children, and then also for those that are taking their children to Form 1. So we are sure that the parents were prepared, and now that the schools have opened, we carry on. Secondly, the government is trying what it can do. The government has done its best. I have seen in the media several members of parliament sitting in meetings in villages with the parents and offering scholarships. CDF scholarships have been given out. Capturing the funds by the government have been sent to schools. The government has done its role. So because of that, we are saying that the Kenyan government is committed to seeing that each and every child in this country receives equity and quality education. And therefore, we say that the government is valuing the education of the children, and therefore it values parents. At the moment, I can say that.
Yes, and
yes.
To pick from where David has left it, he has talked about the government has issued a capitation. He's talked about, of course, the NGCDF is helping out students, and also talked about scholarships. Newton, in your case, you don't have all that. You don't have capitation, you don't have CDF, you don't have scholarship. How are you managing to keep a school? And not only a school, you also even have a hospital and other learning facilities as well.
Yeah, let me first saying that what my colleague or my friend has said is somehow 50% of what is happening in the country. As we speak now, I'm very sure that most, like 80% of the parents are not they're not affording to take their children to school due to the life that we're living today, due to the system of education that we are receiving. You know, it's a pure transition from the 844 to the new curriculum that we are going through today. If you think about parents taking children to school, and the government has not provided even the books for the CBC. Recently we had 14 subjects, I think. Now they reduced the 14 subject without giving even the books. I'm running a school, and my school is going through a lot, even with parents, because sometimes we tell the parents, go back and buy these books, and these books are not yet there for the first place. Number two, I don't know how we are going to manage the sector of education, because it is the key that the government should look. The education and health, the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Education, those are the key, those are the heartbeat of this country. But the way they are being led or lead, I don't know how we are going to manage to match the education system that has been there before. If you check on this, we are in a setup of a CBC whereby our teachers, the teachers that we need to teach these children, have not been trained. They have not been given full training. We are in a new transition. They are trying to adjust, and even the syllabus itself is not yet provided concerning what the teachers are going to teach in this school. We are in the second week of the opening. We just talk about the high school, but you know, we open school even for the primary, and we're in the second week. This second week, only 2 books are being funded. And in high school, the junior secondary, out of 14 subjects, we have only 2 teachers that the government has provided, with a contract which was supposed to end by the end of last year. And now I heard the government is still saying that they have to again have another contract for the next another 1 year, which now we don't understand the fate of the government concerning to education. So if I come back to my own school, you know, I'm paying my teachers from my own, and again, after that I'm trying to manage my school on my own. But I'm still approaching the difficulties because there is no materials to make our children learn. The children are in school from morning to evening, but we don't have enough books. Before they reduced the subject that the government brought from last year, we already bought books for this subject that they brought. And again, at a sudden, you find again, they reduced this subject, which means the books that we bought as parents are now not of use. I don't know whether we're going to throw them, or we're going to merge them. I still don't understand. So being now we have the gentlemen here, they can actually explain to us where we are heading with education in this country. Number 3, the CDF that my colleague or my friend has mentioned. If you go there, people are fighting because they're giving 10,000 to 5,000 shillings. When you go to public school, boarding school, you'll find the fees around 65, 58,000, depending on the management of the school. If you're being given 10,000 and you need 58,000, and you're telling us that these children are now, we take good care of them. You know, sometimes we need to find a way on what or which ministry we need to give proper money and management. So to me, I'm still feeling we are not doing good in education sector, and I am not happy with what is going on. I wish we could have actually, or the president or the management could actually come up with an idea, the one that Kibaki brought. Because Kibaki brought like free primary and again free secondary education. If you go to public school day school, they said it is free because the government is trying to provide a little bit of money. But again, there are still things that the parents must give out. So to me, I'm still not seeing if you are in good condition on the management of education.
And Benson, looking at what Newton is talking about is a very pertinent issue, because some schools, the fee structure itself, the bursaries, the scholarship, they are not quite there yet. And talking about the scholarship and more or less on the NGCDF by the MPs, some counties and some constituencies, the bursary is working very well. You have a case in Murang'a where students only have to pay 1,000 shillings. This is something that an idea that should be replicated in other counties as well, and also in other constituencies, don't you think?
Yeah, I do think so. You know, the CDF money, I know there was the debate the other day in Parliament that a bulk of it should go to education. And indeed, as a country, we have to invest in education if we have to achieve, for example, the Vision 2030. Without serious investment in education, then it becomes, it becomes a joke. Because, for example, what is the criteria, perhaps at this constituency level? How are these money distributed? You know, we are politicizing everything. Whoever knows someone gets the biggest share, whether they can afford or not. So I don't really understand, but then the legislators, the people in charge of this, the CDF managers, really have to relook at it, because if you want that constituency to develop, if you want that ward to develop and have people who can be resourceful, it is just important that we invest in these people by giving sufficient allocation to these to this front, so that these students can be able to get a chance to go to school. Of course, as he's just said, there are challenges at the CBC level. For now, we are focusing on the other level here. I understand as an educationist, there's a need to review the curriculum. And I applaud the late President Mwai Kibaki for bringing free primary education. That was in 2003, yes, around there. But that time, the stakeholders, the people around the president, did they project, for example, how are we going to transition these students, because the numbers are quite high, as we move to the other level? At that particular point, there was a change within the subjects within the 844. Remember, there used to be 7. We had art and craft, GXC and all that. Then someone collapsed everything into social education, and then we remained with the English, Kiswahili science, and yeah. So there was the change. Were we prepared? Again, now, recently we came up with the CBC. I want to know from the experts, what really are we doing? Because for now, we seem to be politicizing everything. When there's a new government, we tend to shift and change things without considering the impact. The previous regime was talking about having the junior secondary housed in the current high schools. There were resources that were used to build extra classrooms. The current regime has shifted it back. So there is talk of some, is it 12 billion to build 15,000 classrooms in the current primary schools. So which way? Are we investing correctly? Are we having prudent use of resources? These are the questions we need to ask as a country. We need to rally behind a cause that we all believe in, whether the government is different or is still the same. Yes.
Bonasek, very pertinent issues that have been raised by the two gentlemen, and teachers always are on the receiving end of everything. Let's start with the contracts themselves. The government had more or less promised from January of 2024, these teachers, the 56,000 teachers that you've mentioned, were going to be having a PNP, permanent and pensionable basis. Now they have to wait for another 1 year contract. This is something that as a union, Kenya National Union of Teachers, you are quite objected to, right?
Let me first of all start from the situation that we have here.
Yes.
Let us come out of the book of lamentation in the Bible, and let us come up with as people who are in the education sector, and let us also not underlook upon ourselves that we don't have the expertise to contribute in the changes that are happening in the education sector. My colleagues here, we don't have better experts than yourselves, because we are all stakeholders in all this, and it is good that all of us have a background in education, either as an investor or as somebody who can sponsor. I'm happy my friend is a teacher with that kind of a background. I know my brother, a parent chairman, who is very passionate with the issues of education. And we have reached a level whereby we want to see the education of our children succeed in Kenya. And here we have a situation whereby we are within the competency-based curriculum, and we have to see it work for our children. Because if we keep on pointing fingers left, right, and center, we might not be addressing what we should address.
And it's also still on it. It is still also good to note that even on the free primary education in 2003, we also had challenges.
Yes, it's good that you know that those challenges, the transition challenges, that is when the gates of the schools were opened and every child was supposed to access school because of free primary education. And this is also a universal call that it is a basic right. And even the transition at 100% after children have reached maybe class 8, and even maybe now we're talking about grade 6 and the rest. These are things that we should work with because we know that they are there. So the only thing that I can say is how do we mitigate to ensure that everything goes right. First of all, I want to say that at the point of the entry to Form 1, the challenges that parents have is very common. It is not a new challenge that is coming in terms of the hard economic situations. These have always been there, and parents have been facing it, and it is because maybe the circumstance in Kenya is that education is being made expensive, and that is why we have a very serious call that education should be the government's duty to ensure that our children get education because it is a basic right. So they should invest more. So I should support all the calls that are saying that more of government's budget should go towards education as a prerequisite for all the developments of all the other sector. That should be done. Then the parents also have their role, just like the parents, the chairman has said. Even personally as a parent, I have my role to play. And I think I did what I could yesterday. Other parents have done what they can. We can not all do within the same level. And that is why we insist that the managements of the schools should also understand. And I'm happy yesterday, I even had another discussion elsewhere, and we said, let the teachers who are receiving the students, the schools that are receiving the students, understand the kind of economic hardships that the parents are having, such that they don't put stringent and expensive measures that will not enable the children to access schools. And I'm happy, I'm telling you, I visited schools and I saw the arrangements that some of these schools I visited had put in place. I did not see any parent being harassed to go back because maybe a child had missed one or two things, which is a good thing. But even in our thinking, even as the schools are doing that, we should look at a way in which we can circumvent and ensure that the school still gets things that can enable it to operate so that it can provide quality. So I think we should move towards that direction. CBC is a big discussion in Kenya, introduction of CBC. Even the training of the teachers, retooling of the teachers, which if we open it, it is a big discussion. And I would wish that even as we're discussing that, we should be very objective, because it is here with us. We cannot run away from it. And that is why we encourage that everybody now should be very positive to think about how do we ensure that the teachers have the capacity to deliver CBC. What does the government give to ensure that the CBC succeeds? My colleagues have talked about infrastructure, the provision of classrooms. My colleague has talked about the classrooms that were built at secondary school. And we looked at if each and every secondary school, and the number of secondary schools are below 20,000. And the children were coming to primary schools which are over 115,000 in the whole of the Republic. Even if these secondary schools were given one classroom each, the way the late Professor Magoha did to all these schools, the transition to secondary school could not happen. That is why we had to use the facilities that were available at primary school, and that should be understood. And even the provision of the amount of money that will enable to build the classes that will accommodate grade 9 next year, because now we are at grade 8. That is the big discussion that we are having now. So wherever this is domiciled, like in primary school, to me, I think is okay, because there is also the financial aspect of if you were to provide the same facilities at another level, what would it entail and what would it cost? So I think these are things that we should look at and we should work with, so that we ensure that there is no serious debate of where, what did you do and what. Now coming to the employment of teachers, first of all, I have appreciated the number of teachers that the government employed the way I did, and the promise that they were to be employed on permanent and pensionable contracts. It normally goes for 1 year. But also let us look at the situation whereby what resources does this government have now? You see the government crying left and center. And the president himself made a pronouncement and he said, let us serve us for this another 1 year, and then let us look at the situation of employment on permanent and pensionable. So let us work within the levels of saying, how do we work to ensure that solutions are found, even as our children are not missing what? Education.
You said that you as teachers, you're comfortable with what happened and the extension of the contract to 1 year?
You see, I might not be happy. Just like your child might not be happy that you're not providing the best in your house that the child should get. But you're looking at, what circumstance am I in now? If you even push this government to employ these teachers, and there are 56,000, subtract about 4,000 who are given permanent and pensionable. The rest are still on intern. And the government has to look at resources to turn all this into permanent and pensionable. Look at the magnitude, the financial magnitude that it entails, vis-a-vis the budget that the government has, and the strains that are being thrown left, right, and center. We are not absolving the government from doing what it's supposed to do. But we are saying, if you are giving promises to these teachers that after this year, the economy will improve and you will give them the permanent and pensionable stature, then stick to your words this time round, and let us see you putting efforts to ensure that there, if it is taxes are collected in a good manner and there are no loopholes for corruption, so that we have enough resources that will ensure that at the end of this year, all those teachers who have not enjoyed the permanent and pensionable status will get it. There is something that was misleading, because these teachers were saying we might not report to school in January because we have not been employed on permanent and pensionable basis. But they remember that their contract ended on 31st of what? Of December. Now, it means that when we were transiting to first, then they have no contract. There is no contractual obligation. So there is no way you can now go and say that I want to go on strike on somebody you have no contract about. So it would be safer for them to have this renewal of the contract, because it can safeguard their next level of bargain. And that is what we have kept on telling them. Let us, you accept these letters, have them, because it will give us platform. It is us, the unions, who will come up and say, these teachers have served this country for 1 year, for 2 years, and they now need to be employed on permanent and pensionable basis. I personally participated in the year 2011 when the first contractual teachers were employed in 2010 and they were confirmed in 2011. As Kenya National Union of Teachers, we took to the streets. We are the ones who mobilized because we have that recognition agreement with the employer.
Yes.
So we are the ones who mobilize all the teachers, even those who are already on permanent and pensionable, to fight for their colleagues who are on contractual basis. And they were eventually confirmed as permanent and pensionable. So people should understand the space within which they operate, so that you don't lose what you have because of a fight that will technically throw you out.
Okay, so the intern teachers should first of all look at the glass half full as the government works to make sure that the glass is full. Bonachair, picking from where the section has left it, and the parents indeed are quite pressed, and he says it's not a new occurrence, and especially in January. But I do remember even the last time we were speaking with you, some schools are not accepting students first because of the harsh economic time. They actually want at least the parents to put some, even if it's 70% of that, before they can admit children back to school. This is something that the ministry is talking about. We shouldn't. All students should be allowed to school. The government has sent some capitation which actually schools should be working on as now. I would like to pick your mind on that. Allowing schools, all of them students, to allow students back to school, and then the parents can work their way through the finances.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank my friends on what they have discussed. It's making sense. And I want to pick on one thing that I heard from my friend Hesbon here. First of all, we don't have to engage education in terms of politics. You know, I have always gone repeating and saying that parents own schools in this country. Schools don't belong to the government, they belong to parents. But it's only that the parents are not fully informed on that. And that's why there's the issue of parental empowerment and engagement, for the parents to be trained, to be informed, for us to create awareness. And that's why now I'm in this office now. That's my work. So I'm trying to work with the government to create awareness on parents to understand what are exactly their roles in the education sector, more so towards the provision of the education for their children. Before I comment on that, I come with the issue of teachers on contract. Let me begin from there first of all. Hesbon has explained this clearly, that the teachers that were on contract, I read their letter of contract, and it was only up to 31st of December 2023, and that marked the end of that contract. There was no section saying that after 31st of December 2023, the teachers will be on PNB, or they'll be again contracted. So the government, having given these teachers a job first, they should be very happy, because there are millions and millions of teachers outside here who are highly trained and qualified and have no employment. But these ones were picked, the 21,500, and they were given that contract for 1 year, which again, the head of state, President himself, has agreed that it should be again renewed for another 1 year. And these teachers stay at home again and wait now to look for what? Permanent and pensionable employment in the future. You know, after their contract, actually, they should have gone home, because there's nothing in an agreement that's saying that they have to go to work. But now, the head of state looked at this and said, no, these are my children. Let them go back again, get another 1 year of contract. 2025, they'll be on PNP kind of paper. Personally, these teachers came to me. They have been in my office. And they wrote me letters. They complained that parents are going to suffer, we should not go to class. But we sat and discussed, and we came to an amicable solution that they go back to class. I was the one who convinced those teachers to go back to class, and they went, because I'm a parent number 2 from the president. Yeah, so president is number 1 in terms of parenting, because you know that. The issue of parents going to school and having been asked to pay 70%, 80%. There was a circular from the PS last year, and that circular is still in force, saying that parents should go to school and agree with the principals or the heads of schools, school management boards, on how fees can be paid in installments. That is a leeway to the parents to go to school and even say, I can only afford 50 shillings per month, and I will pay it like dowry. You won't get finished until it's all over. So once you have that door as a parent, why do you keep a child at home and say, you have no money to take the child to school. And the government has given that leeway.
But Chair, to be very honest with you, we've seen even the news yesterday that some students were turned away. I saw
I'm coming
a
to
story
that.
in Buruburu.
I'm coming to that.
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm trying to explain where the government is heading to. The government is committed to providing education to these children. So that's why the PS gave that circular as the government that heads of institutions should not turn away students to go back home because of school fees. But the parents have to go to school and commit in writing how the fees will be paid, because principals cannot run schools without money. There are lots of millions of shillings, balances. This is government money, and by the way, let me tell you, when a parent takes a child to school like the way Hesbon did yesterday, he read the letter, the instructions were there, that he will pay fees. He went and committed himself to pay fees. Now, Hesbon takes the child to school and then he runs away. He leaves the wife to go to school every day, taking the child, telling the principal, oh, Mzee is not around, my husband is not there, we don't have fees. Both parents must be committed. Even when taking children to school, let both parents go. The man and the female parent take the child to school. Then they commit in writing how the balances will be paid. So what has happened is that parents took advantage of that cycle of the PS of saying that you go to school and commit yourself to the principals, and the principals should not send children at home. Now to keep off, because they knew that with the cycle in place, principals would not send children away. So the only alternative that happens is that when parents don't show up in school, there is no way that the principal can keep the children in school. They must go and bring the parents. And that's why you saw the children going back at home. Because parents bring the children up the gate and tell them to go to school and say you don't have fees. Now they're asked by the principals, where are your parents? They just send us to school. That is ignorance, that parents need to have that awareness. So we cannot blame the government. We are telling parents, go to schools and open up to principals, discuss the issue of fee payment, commit it down. Principals cannot run schools without money. The other question, the question on CBC. Let me now come to CBC from my brother there. We are just in the new transition of taking over the new system of CBC. It has not picked up. We are still now picking up. A child is not born today and tomorrow the child is walking and climbing trees. The child takes a process.
Okay. And we're going to be discussing a lot more in regards to the curriculum, because that is part of the education reforms in the country.
Yes.
But we need to cross over to Mombasa, where my colleague Ann Mburu is currently at the Mama Ngina School. We're keeping tabs with what is happening, especially with the Form 1 admission. Good morning, Ann Mburu from Mombasa. Tell us how things are at Mama Ngina.
Good morning to you, to Ben Troy Njue, back at Broadcasting House, and I'm coming live to you from Mama Ngina Girls High School in Shanzu, Mombasa County. And today being day 2 of the Form 1 admissions ongoing, I'll be joined by the Chief Principal, Mwanamisi Omar, just to tell us how the process has been and how they've been admitting and how many students they will be admitting for the Form 1 registration in Mama Ngina Girls High School. Karibu sana on set. Maybe you can begin with your names and tell us about the admissions, how the whole process has been from yesterday and today. As you can see behind us, the admissions are still ongoing.
Yeah, my name is Mrs. Mwanamisi Omar, the Chief Principal, Mama Ngina Girls High School. We've been admitting Form 1 since yesterday, and the process is very smooth. We began yesterday. Quite a number of them reported yesterday, over 200 of them. We expect some more today. Being a boarding school, you know, there's quite much that the parents have to get for the boarding items, so they are still looking for them. Most of them are calling to say that they are here in town, in Mombasa, getting some of the items, but we believe by the end of the day, today, we will have about 250 of them. We may go up to around 300, though that will be a bit of a stretching for us because we are in a new school and the capacity of the dome is not as big, but at least we can accommodate between 250 and 300 girls.
Maybe have any parents come with the idea of having to pay the school fees in installments because of the harsh economic times that you're facing right now? Are you allowing them to continue admitting their kids?
Of course, several of them are coming with that kind of requests that because of the harsh economic times and because of the purchasing of the boarding items, they are requesting that they pay the fees in installments. Yeah, we quite agree with them and come up with a plan, but at least they should pay a good amount. But as much as possible, we understand them. We are not turning them away. As long as somebody has come, a parent has come with something. Yeah.
Have you received any needy cases that maybe they do not have school fees, they do not come with anything that they're supposed to have in school?
Of course, yes. There are quite a number that are very needy even from their shopping. You know, you can tell from the items that they have brought. Yesterday, we received one that did not have anything. She came with the mother, but fortunately, she was picked up by one of our board members. So she's the one who actually facilitated everything for her, gave money for shopping. She was taken for shopping by our school librarian. And in the evening, she came and settled down in school. So we thank God for her. She's such a bright girl. She scored 381 marks, but from a very humble background. But she's now in school. Yeah.
Now that it's a new school, and maybe you could tell us if there's any capitation that you've been given by the government disbursed, and then you can also assure parents now that they are new students and this is a new school. Any assurances to the parents of having taken care of the kids?
Yeah, we were given some bit of capitation last week, and we are grateful for that because that will start us off. I believe some more will be given by our good government. So far, what I can tell the parents is that from them, we just need prayers because it is God that will take us through in this very new school. As you know, a new home has a lot of challenges. But together with the girls, we will live with the challenges, and I'm sure with time we will overcome. But I want to say that we don't have much of challenges. We have all the basics. The learning areas are in place. The boarding area is okay. The cooking area is okay, and you know those are the most important places. So all those are okay. We have plenty of water. We have plenty of electricity. So we are good to go. Yeah.
Just as we had the principal has just said that everything is going on smoothly. They will be expecting at least 300 students to be admitted at the Form 1 classes in Mama Ngina Girls. Back to you in studio, Njue.
Thank you, Ann Mburu, live from Mama Ngina there, and she has engaged Mwanahamisi Omar, the chief principal of that school. And it's a good thing that Bonachea, exactly what we've talked about is what they have talked about, and the chief principal has talked about. They have not sent away any student because of lack of fee. And the capitation that we've just mentioned that the government released last week, it's changing. It's a game changer in regards to some of those schools that the students do not have any money. I would like you to touch on that as a parent and also as a chair of the PTA.
Okay, I was saying this, I will come to address that issue. First of all, let me go from where I stopped. I was saying that when it comes to CBC is like a newborn baby who is now being taken care of to come up.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking about the education reforms because, of course, there are a number of reforms in the education sector, yes. Also including reduction of subjects, you know.
Yes, I'm coming to that. I'll address all that. So I'm saying that with the CBC, we need to understand that the government is doing what it can do and try to provide by all means. Yeah, the issue of textbooks, as my brother said, and new subjects, these are changes that we are expecting because you all feel that the number of subjects that the students were carrying at CBC were too many. 12 subjects for an 11-year-old child. Those are many subjects. And the curriculum designers thought it wise that they reduced the subjects to 9. And because of that now, there's what we call infusion. That the subjects are being infused. They are being put like combined together. Maybe like science and whatever it is in one book. So for now, the printers of the books are working to have the books in time in schools. Secondly, the only books that were being used, they have the same subjects. It's only that what's happening now is now that infusion of books, combining of the books. And now you have more text for that. But in the real sense, the books are in schools, they have the subjects, they have all the information. So the old books that were there can still be used as the new ones are coming in. So that is not a very big crisis that we can talk about right now. Although, I may also say that parents have not been asked to buy any new books as far as CBC is concerned from the government. Unless those in private. But those in public schools, the government is going to supply books and it has been promised. The issue of subjects is normal. We reduce them. They have to be reduced even for the teachers to be able to mark, to assess the children, and also for the students to be able to do work and even complete assignments given at home. So that one is good news to the parents. On funding of capitation,
yes,
the government cannot have enough money for everybody, even and not only Kenya. There is no government in the world, and Hesbon will tell you as an education expert, there is no government in the world that can provide education free for its children. In the whole world. Even America, which is the superpower country, it can't do that. And that's why there's cost sharing. And our government has given cost sharing on a very soft kind of a platter that the parents can share with the government. For example, the government is giving about 20,000, 22,000 shillings to the students at the secondary school level. Parents are paying 20,700 for term 1. Now look at that. If a parent has been given a leeway of going to agree with the principal in the school, as you have heard from Mombasa, they go and agree, and they can pay in installments. And you can see the principals are very soft, and they are very good, and they are promising that they come and agree on what they can pay. So the parent has that time to go and do the clearance of the fees. However, we are saying that in the future, let the government think of also increasing these funds, so that at least that 20,700 can come to something like now 5,700 to a parent, but the rest of the lot is taken by the government. That's what you are calling for. The government CDF to the students. Let also members of parliament fight in parliament to have that money increased when they do the budget allocations, so that they also get enough money to fund the students in their areas who cannot afford to fund education. Having said that, what is the role of parents in the education sector? We must teach parents that it's not always politicians who will meet the needs of their children in the school. It's we parents who must understand that we are the ones who give birth to these children. They are our children, and we must take care of them. So parents ought to be educated to understand what are their roles. One of the roles is feeding the children, health roles, providing sanitation facilities, and then also taking the children to school in terms of the cost sharing that the government is doing. So the government has done its part.
All right. And from where the chair has talked about Newton, and I'll quote what the SecGen said, that we should move from the book of Lamentation maybe to the book of Revelations and look at the reforms that the government has initiated. It has made, we've switched from the 844 to the CBC, and a reduction in subjects, which, with all fairness, is a reduction of equipment, books, and even attention for our young. I'd like you to point out on that.
Thank you. Once again, I don't want us to politicize when it comes to, or make politics when it comes to education. This is a government which is being run by all ministry and all departments, and I want to disagree with few quotes that they said. Number one, there is no way to debate on a student or a pupil who is already in class. We need to find a way before they go to class. We had a long holiday, 2 months, and all the ministries knew that when it comes to January, we are going to have opening of the schools. It is unfortunate to understand that the children belong to the parents. Of course, I knew on myself that anybody who is being born in Kenya belongs to this government, because it's our birthright to be Kenyans, and the Ministry of Education belongs to Kenya. Let me say that according to what I'm seeing in the Ministry of Education, it's not a matter that we need to discuss while children are suffering. We are in the second week of opening. We are still discussing on how we want to improve the new curriculum, CBC, while already the children are in class. Number two, I'm doing management morning to evening for the past many years. We don't need to implement new system of development in this country before we reorganize or build what we have. Whatever we are doing here, we are doing it, but the education is still the key to anything that we are going to implement in this country. When we are talking about the CBC, or because I heard now those who are entering from one, there's a discussion between parents and schools, which I agree, because even me, myself, my son, the third one joined from one yesterday in Omo Bay, boys. So we had some agreement. That one I agree 100%. But when it comes to management of education, for example, the CBC that we are talking about now, we should not wait until we implement the curriculum before we discuss. If last month, which was last year, we were having those 11 subjects, and then this year, a month later, we reduce without even having public participation, because I heard them saying the parents belongs to the children.
I believe some of these things stem from the task force that was initiated by the president as soon as he got into power in regards to the education reforms?
That's where I'm coming from. The task force, they were not being brought from United States of America or Tanzania or Uganda. There are our people here. That's why I'm trying to explain that the first thing we need to do before implement any system in all the sectors, we must have what we call the public participation.
All right.
We must
just
make
a minute.
sure.
Kindly hold the thought. I'm informed that the Ministry of Sports CS, Ababu Namamba, is currently having a discussion, a media engagement at the Talanta Plaza. Let's first of all listen in.
Olympics, you have already announced your partnership with Tusker. So can we take this opportunity to thank EABL for being the first partner to come on board? Asante sana EABL. You did not clarify whether it is money or it is something else. No, but even the something else is okay. So something else is also welcome. So EABL, asanteni sana. Na nyinyi pia tunataka kuona pesa yenu in football more strongly. Of course, we know you have a team called Tusker FC. It could be, someone was telling me that your Tusker brand is consumed in a certain corner of Kenya, I don't want to name it, more than any other corner. And that corner of Kenya has a football team that is really struggling. Please appreciate that corner of Kenya by picking up that team alongside Tusker FC. Thank you very much and have a fantastic day.
Sports CS Ababu Namwamba there at the Talanta Hela Plaza, the Ministry of Health, a number of sporting activities, including some of which we here at KBC are actually televising, including the Africa Cup of Nations, among others. But for more, we will be having that in our subsequent bulletin. But for now, let's have a quick break. We'll be right back with this discussion. Remember, your feeds, your suggestions, your questions, your weighing in right here on social media KBC. We are live on our social media platforms.